view. Flip a doujin in the bed, I'm reading manga till it's two. Tell me that you love us if I go, I'm knowing that it's true. Cause you acting all moe and vanilla in my view. So this is for them waifus, straight 2D flex in my life, fool. If you fuck with hands, how you my dude. Let the beat right out, keep it nice and smooth, yo.
Except the jackets would probably be restricting.
Yeah, the jackets are probably not practical. Nor is the scarf. The scarf would like be in her face half the time. She would be blinded by her scarf and get like killed, dude.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Weeaboos, the anime podcast, where we get drunk and talk about anime. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hunter.
What are we drinking tonight, Hunter?
It's the Ninkasi. The Ninkasi Brewing Company. It's the same thing we had. It's the double red ale that just tastes like a double red ale, and it's nothing special, but it's not bad, and it's not good. It's just, it simply is.
It simply is. It is beer. I like it.
It's so deep.
That's me. So, the mystique of anime is fading. In fact, it may already be gone. Part of the reason behind my initial obsession with anime was the pure shock I experienced after realizing I had lived 12 years without knowing something like it existed. The second after I finished watching the first episode of Bleach, which I just happened to stumble upon, I found myself in a constant state of uncovering mysteries and learning completely pointless yet incredibly intriguing information. What was anime? Is there more of it? Can I watch it online? What do I start with? Why does the show look different from what I watched before? Why do these characters take their shoes off in school? Like, why do they clap their hands before eating? Why don't certain shows have subtitles? Why do all these anime end without proper endings? Like, what's manga? And these were only a handful of the questions I asked myself as a kid who was born in '93. If you wanted to watch anime pre-internet, you had to be lucky enough to know someone who happened to get their hands on a fan-subbed VHS tape. And now, we have multiple streaming sites that give us subbed versions of nearly everything that's currently airing in Japan hours after its initial release, which you complained about, Hunter. Like, I got a text from you saying, like, why isn't there more anime on Crunchyroll?
Oh yeah, because they didn't have what I wanted to watch. Bastards.
Man, I cannot imagine what it would be like. I'd really love to talk to someone who's older than us and grew up in that VHS era of trying to get your hands on anime.
Well, one thing, this might be a weird comparison to make, but a lot of what you said sounds like what most people go through, like when they find like pornography for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, what is this? Is this okay? Is this not okay? Why haven't I seen this before? Is it taboo?
Yeah, it's definitely strange how often we will make the comparison of porn to anime. So, like, it's strange how often that comes up.
Right.
And that's how I felt when I first found out about anime. But anime is more accessible now than it's ever been. However, the more accessible something is, the less alluring it becomes. Streaming has taken away the mysterious aspects of anime, and although I would never want to go back to a time where it's harder to watch anime, I feel like the anime world is losing a defining characteristic. So, do you see a problem with this? Like, what does anime lose, or maybe even gain, simply by being slightly more commonplace due to the popularization of streaming?
You're almost saying like you're kind of sad because it's not a hipster thing anymore.
You can phrase it like that.
Is that, oh, well, I mean, now so many people are getting into it. It's not this, I can't have this special bond with somebody because we both found it and it's not really easy to find anymore.
It's not necessarily a matter of popularity. I do not think anime is becoming popular. But I feel like the way in which you find anime is important. And I feel like the secrecy of it makes it feel like it's your own.
Well, I mean, I get that, but I think that like the benefit of anime, you said like what it loses and what it gains.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it doesn't gain it because it had it all along. The big thing that separates anime from other medium is that by drawing all of your characters, you have no limitations. You can, like, it'd be really hard to film a dude flying through the air.
No, I get that, but it's not so much about what anime itself gains or loses. It's the experience. So
I think in that case, what you gain is a bigger, like, a vaster array to choose from. Like, sure, you don't have to...
No, totally. I think it's technically a better thing. There's there's a charm to discovering something entirely on your own. You're more likely to feel attached to a band you find yourself.
That's so true, actually.
Rather than if someone were to tell you about them. The fact that anime isn't openly talked about or considered mainstream allows us to experience a more intimate connection with the medium. Slowly learning about this hidden world of anime was such a self-defining aspect of my life. There was this seemingly infinite universe of beautiful and intense stories, yet not a word was spoken about it. Whereas now, I sort of pity the kids hearing the word anime for the first time through YouTubers who are paid to do bad Crunchyroll ads. Like, how does that impact the perception or outlook on anime for the new generation of fans?
That actually, like, that kind of reminds me, a long time ago, back when I lived in either Colorado or New Mexico, in the mornings, there was this show that came on, and I couldn't find anybody that knew about this show. It was called Zoids.
Yeah.
You know about Zoids? It was like these kind of like animalistic machine kind of things, and they fought, and like people were in them or whatever. But I had found this just by browsing through channels, and I loved it so much that I always had to keep watching it over and over. And the saddest day, it was in chronological order. So it played through it, and then I saw the finale. Like before I went to school, I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And I had watched like halfway through the series. And the next day, the very first episode had come on. Like it basically restarted at season 1 on the first episode. I was like, now I get the backstory. And then the next day, it changed to a different series because they were like, well, it's done. We got to change it up. But I still connect with people. Like people will be, everyone does nostalgia trips and they're like, oh, I used to watch this when I was young. I'll be like, you guys ever heard of Zoids? You remember Zoids?
And I was like,
that shit was so awesome. Yeah. So I totally get where you're coming from now that you mention it like that.
Yeah, we all discovered anime in our own way at different times in our life. Like, regardless of how we were introduced to it, the fact that we gave it a chance and allowed ourselves to be pulled into that world or lifestyle means that we still get to share the experience of asking ourselves, what else is there? That question, what's next, is why I'm still watching anime. There's always at least one show per season or some hidden gem out there that's unlike anything I've seen before.
We haven't had a drink yet, so I'm gonna call this one a drink.
Yeah, sure. So, which is why I think Mystique goes further than simply our initial impression of anime. Anime fans in particular are strangely obsessive, possibly due to the feeling of personal attachment I mentioned. And because of this, we're even more subject to the enticing unknown, the alluring aura of anime. Like, people want what they can't have, and there are quite a few things we can't have as anime fans. Sequels never being made, expensive limited edition merchandise, and specifically to us non-Japanese speaking fans, untranslated and unlicensed works. By being foreign, there are some enigmatic qualities that will always remain with anime. Unfortunately, they're somewhat negative qualities, but they do enhance our desire. So technically, it's not all bad.
Well, you can still get that. Like, I think that the wonder will always be there as a foreign fan, because you specifically can go to Japan and find some like random anime merchandise trinket that you can only find there and bring it back. And people are like, oh, where'd you get that? Well, you had to go to Japan for this.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting philosophy, and it's inevitable. We can't stop anime from, going down the path it's heading. And like you mentioned, it's not a bad thing.
Well, yeah, everyone wants the medium to grow and get, more notoriety, because if they make more money, then, you get more anime.
Yeah. And like I mentioned in the beginning, I'd love to talk to someone who had to go through the VHS days of literally like having to have, like, you have to know someone who owns a fan subbed VHS tape to watch that. And like, it was so hard to get your hands on any anime. And then I would like to also like compare to someone younger than us, someone who's just getting into anime, and how has maybe finding anime through a YouTube ad, like how has that changed their perception on it?
Well, I might sort of be in that pool of people. I think I like the first anime I ever watched might have been like 2012, 2013 or something, like really not very long ago.
Yeah.
Aside from stuff on Toonami, I literally everybody, like, we'd be playing League of Legends or StarCraft, whatever it was at the time, in a Skype call, and then everyone would start talking about anime. I'm like, what is this garbage? What the hell are you people talking about? Like, dude, just try one, all right? Just go watch one. So I looked through like my anime list, who they had recommended. We'll take a drink in a sec. And then I like scrolled through and I was like, Gurren Lagann looks cool. And everyone's like, I don't think you should watch that as your first one. I'm like, too late. And then, you know, I found it, loved it, and continued on. Okay, now we can drink.
Yeah, I mean, I realize part of this makes me sound like a bitter old man, but I mean,
But you always sound like
yeah, I kind of do. I kind of do.
I mean, all in all, I think it's, while you do, I mean, lose that kind of hipster vibe of, you know, having to have found it, go out of your way and get it, and then when you get it, it's like a little bit sweeter.
Sure.
Having the access to as many as you want and being able to pick and choose what you watch. I mean, I think it's really a net benefit. Like, let's say your fan sub VHS was like High School DxD or something, and you thought that was the pinnacle of animation.
I mean, yeah, it might have been because that's all you could get your hands on.
Yeah, that's all you know.
Yeah.
But now that you know that there's other stuff out there, I mean,
Yeah. Anime, like I said, is far from popular. In a future episode, I think we'll talk about why. But now, it's not completely out of the ordinary to mention anime in conversation, while just a few years ago it was taboo. With the insane increase of streaming services, anime has sort of worked its way into societal tolerance. It's far from perfect. Take Amazon's anime strike, for example, but streaming has made a monumental impact on the anime industry. It's sad that a certain emotional charm will inevitably vanish from anime, and there's nothing we can do about it, but it's for the best, and I'm sure people who are new to anime will develop their own completely unique anime origin story and experience a similar emotion we felt when we walked into Blockbuster and rented our first anime DVD.
well, this is one thing is that I don't think the wonder and mystique will ever truly go away, because like let's compare this to music. Like, Spotify is ubiquitous for having like every track in existence except Taylor Swift. Whenever I have an artist I like and I click through related artists and I go through songs, this, that, and the other, or I play on radio, and I find something that I've never heard the band, I've never heard the song, and I really like it and I can show it to other people, I get that exact same feeling. Even though the platform made it much, you know, easier to find and access, and now everybody else can just access it freely, I still have that, like, you know, wonder and like hipster vibe of finding something that no one else has.
Totally. Yeah, and just the act of, like, the state of being foreign to us as Americans. Like, this foreign medium will be mysterious because of those qualities I mentioned, like cultural aspects of it. Like, it took me a while to have a good grasp on, like I mentioned, why people were taking their shoes off inside and clapping before meals.
Getting used to the culture.
Yeah, so.
And, well, Japanese humor. It's different.
There's a lot of learning curves.
And there's like they'll be explaining like a kanji joke or something, and I'm totally lost,
I'm like,
all the time.
I'll just look at my phone for 30 seconds until they're done with this joke because I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's move on to questions.
Questions.
So, this week's question comes from Comic Fan 44, and they ask, do you think older anime is at risk of being lost due to the current generation of anime watchers being super obsessed with what's current? Many times when I recommend anime to friends, even stuff that's only a couple of years old, they tend to reject the notion, and when I mention stuff like Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, and Castle of Cagliostro, I get this look of horror, like I just asked them to watch a black and white film.
And that's actually like kind of a good comparison in a way, because I think that the animation quality has risen so like monumentally quickly, that, you know, even though we, you know, think about like 480p black and white films as, you know, when's the first film, like 1940s, 50s, 40s?
Sure,
I don't know, whatever.
I don't know.
You know, you're looking at like 60, 70 years. 30 years ago anime is the same jump.
Maybe that's actually a little bit complicated because if we're talking about animation quality, there are plenty of older anime. Like Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is better animated from a technical standpoint than most modern anime. Like it's much more fluid. Like most of the scenes are animated on ones, and it's just like it's absolutely insane compared to a lot of cheaper techniques that we learned to make anime production go by more quickly.
Sure, but then you'll see something like the Kizumonogatari films, and that has all of the animation on top of being just, really crisp and clear.
Yes,
and
yes, that's true. That's true. So I don't think it's just at risk. I think most older anime has already lost a lot of its relevance.
Absolutely.
We sort of talked about this in our episode on the longevity of anime. I'll admit it's easy to get in the routine of only watching airing anime. It's convenience. People are talking about it. It's on the front page of every anime website. It's pretty. However, there will always be people like you or myself who aren't turned off by older anime and actually seek it out. And I'm not so concerned about classics like Cagliostro or Bloodlust getting forgotten, but I am worried about average quality anime. Since around 2007 or 2009, the volume of anime being produced has increased exponentially, and we're at the point where even currently airing anime are being lost. If you're part of our Discord, a few of us were actually talking about why Bento wasn't more popular, and it was because it aired alongside much more popular anime like Guilty Crown. Like, all we can do is be advocates of older anime. We have to know what individual people like and give them appropriate suggestions. Convince people that their favorite anime is out there, like waiting for them, but they just need to give it a chance. Real quick shout out before we move on to what we're watching to all our patrons. We don't thank you guys enough, and you patrons are literally the ones keeping the podcast online. It's thanks to you that like it's hosted, and it's not that much money. It's not a big deal, but we appreciate that more than anything.
Kyle hasn't texted me and asked for SoundCloud money.
I know, it's been so long.
All month.
So thank you guys. Thank you again. Now, let's talk about what we're watching.
I mean, you just want me to start? Just go for it?
Just go for it.
Okay. So I was doing finals and dealing with the end of school. So I had 2 episodes to catch up on both of the things I'm watching. Mm-hmm. But I'm really glad because both totally ended in cliffhangers, and I got full resolutions on both of them, which is great. So Shingeki, obviously this is spoilery, but Ymir being a Titan, called that from a mile away. The second she had the little herring thing where it's like, what language is that? I was like, she's one of them.
Yeah, Attack on Titan is not great with like plot twists.
Oh no, not at all.
But it's funny that it kind of hypes itself up to be, like, in terms of like the tone and the music. It's all like, you'll never know what happens next, and then it's really
and then everyone's like, but I knew.
Yeah,
I knew what happened next.
Go on.
One thing that I thought was funny that Kyle didn't like until I think I explained it to him, but like at the very end of the most recent episode, the scouts show up, all the main original cast characters, and Aaron like jumps off his horse and like flips around and like does a really sloppy kill. And he's like, yeah, fuck yeah, my first kill, which like kind of spoke to me in a way because like the poor dude, like literally in his very first battle ever, just like is one of the first people eaten.
Yeah.
And then he like literally every other fight, they're like, all right, Aaron, you know what to do. You do the whole being a Titan shit, and we're going to fly around and slice him up. So it's really funny to me that his first kill is like 3 years after he starts being a scout.
Right. I like overanalyzed myself. I was confused because I thought it was actually like I was watching something out of order. I thought it was we were watching something that happened previously, like this was a flashback. But I guess Hunter pointed it out, and like, well, I guess that makes a lot more sense that he just hasn't actually killed a Titan in his human form yet. So
yeah, so I thought that was cool. And I did like watching one thing that like totally stood out to me. I forget the chick's name, but there were two people that were that actually had maneuver gear and were kind of like protecting the tower while
Yeah, they
everyone
were
else
like
was
side
standing on top.
characters, but
But man, like every time it shows like the Titans literally like ripping people apart, and it's just like screaming, and they're always calling for like their like mother
parents,
and
yeah.
father. Dude, that gets me every time. Like, oh god damn it, war is hell, dude. Like,
I mean, it gets me too. But does every character have to call for their mom or dad every
yes,
time?
every single time.
Okay,
It humanizes them.
sure. That's an easy way to humanize someone.
I don't know. It gets like I don't know why, but that's a cheap way to get to pull at my heartstrings. If someone is calling for their parents when they're like being horribly and brutally murdered.
Sure.
So on to Boku no Hero. Definitely some hype. I was talking with Kyle about I didn't really understand the use of one for all, because I thought he just like one for all and then like smacks his hand out of the way, just like psh.
No, my explanation was that when Deku tried to reach for the headband, he used wind pressure. Like he used the strength to like slap against the wind to push the opponent's hand away from protecting the headband.
Okay.
Because if he, that's why he didn't do any damage to himself. If he were to have hit, the opponent, he would have died. So
Yeah, he would have killed him. I also think that dude's dad is so badass. He's just constantly on fire. He's just like chilling, dude. He's so cool.
yes, he is constantly on fire.
I thought it was really cool to see Ida, I think his name, the rocket leg guy.
Yes, yeah.
Ida doing his
Super speed.
Yeah, his super special secret move.
Yeah.
That was really cool to see, and I'm hoping that further into the tournament we get to see everybody reveal that little power they've been hanging on to, which is going to be really cool. And I also want to see Deku like go beyond plus ultra on someone's ass.
Totally.
It's gonna be cool. So I'm enjoying both so far. Gonna keep watching them.
The first thing I want to talk about is recreators. So
You were kind of disappointed in last week, weren't you?
yeah, I mentioned in the Discord that something came up that I was just not happy with. And up until that point, recreators has been like teetering on the verge of being like good or bad. Like a lot of stuff is really, it's the midway point, where we're discovering if things are truly like outstanding or just okay. So recreators kind of proved that it was just okay.
Damn.
Recreators,
If you still have beer, that's a drink.
I sure do. Recreators had the most convoluted explanation for the overall conflict of the show. Like it used so much overly complex language to convey the message bad things will happen if anime characters will continue to interact with the world. Like that's all they needed to say, not, and I quote, the coefficient of elasticity will reach its limit and the equilibrium mechanism governing the laws of this world will be damaged. Like the rest of this episode was dumped exposition like on us in the most uninteresting way possible. Like the dialogue simply wasn't intertwined with the visuals, which makes me believe the writer couldn't find a way to work major key elements naturally into the narrative. Like, unfortunately, it looks like it's become one of those conceptually interesting anime that's fun to watch, but was ultimately ruined by the plots. Like, I hope I'm wrong, though. Recreators is good for the concept and the action, but, like, I don't like when the writer can't fit the writing into the story.
That's pretty bad. Or like when something opens with like talking about the war.
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine that I've mentioned before. Eromanga sensei.
Oh God.
Other than train wreck, embarrassing is probably the best word to describe this series. So my biggest issue with this specific episode, I guess, is that the main character says to his little sister, like, older brothers don't look at their little sisters with lust at all. Like, I don't love you in that sort of way. And then that's immediately followed by, like, I'm going to write a story with the little sister as the main heroine. Like, everything he says contradicts his actions. It's like the author is trying to convince himself that he's not into little sisters. Like, it's just...
I think it's just like I can't get over the concept as a whole. Like, I watched What a Emo, and I watched all 12 episodes.
And the OVA?
Not the OVA.
Like the real ending?
Was there a real? I do not like. I tried to block it out of my mind.
Okay.
Good,
It's
but
good
but
that
I
you did.
watched it because, well, it's really pretty. It's very very like visually striking show to me. I think it's got a really cool style. But it was like, I felt weird watching it every second of every moment.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe. Last thing, real quick. Not anime. Samurai Jack. I do want to quickly talk about Samurai Jack.
Ooh.
I haven't talked about it since like it first started. I'm going to talk about a little bit about episode 6. Samurai Jack has been doing a really great job at avoiding the nostalgia appeal. Like Samurai Jack in itself is very nostalgic, but it's really just been its own thing, like a direct continuation. But episode 6 was the first like nostalgia heavy episode because the main girl is searching for Samurai Jack, who she got separated from, and she's meeting all of these people from like the key points in the story from the original series. So, man,
That's
it
a
was
drink.
just. Sure, I'll take a drink. Like, I forgot how much of a defining moment the club episode in Samurai Jack was. I don't know how much of a fan you are, but man, that just really got to me.
I mean, I love it when series do that. Like, one of the biggest ones, I don't know if you've ever watched the series Scrubs,
yeah.
but at the very end, JD walks down a hall and you see every single patient he's ever had and all the important characters for the show in like 5 minutes as he's walking down the hall. And it's like, it's super touching moment.
Wow.
I love it when series do that.
Yeah. But so, yeah, those are the main series I wanted to talk about this week. I mean, I do maybe want to mention Sekaisu Rukado is something I kind of had like a memory lapse last week. I couldn't really recall what Sekaisu Rukado was. And I'm liking it a lot. It's the anime that I kind of have compared to Arrival in a sense. It's really, it's simultaneously interesting and boring. It has an interesting concept, but it conveys information in sort of a boring way. So basically, like, what if an alien came down and said, like, I have infinite energy I'm willing to give to the human race? That's the concept.
Be like, thank you.
Right, but the point is that it's not that simple because it causes lots of conflict. There's war with the United Nations, like who gets this power, how do we distribute it, all these little nitty-gritty details. And in addition to that, the alien is, not completely like up to date with how the Earth works, like how things are communicated with. It's very complex, but I just wish it was a little bit more appealing in a certain way. It's not. I don't want to say it's not entertaining, but it's just it feels very informational all the time. But let's wrap up. If you have any questions, suggestions for episode topics, please don't hesitate to send as many as you'd like. You can send questions to myself at Secret Otaku on Tumblr or send us an email at theweeboos@gmail.com. You can also leave us a comment wherever you're listening. Join us on Twitch most Fridays when we record live, and join us on our Discord so you can talk to us whenever you'd like. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon or leaving an iTunes review if you like what we do. And more than anything, please share the podcast because word of mouth is pretty much the only way we get new listeners. We want to thank Hentai Dude for our intro music and Kuwagata for our outro music. And like always, get
Drunk
and
anime.
see you guys next week.
Peace.
You can catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho-Oh in a tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze, sacred fire. Don't be mad, I'm lit. Catch me smoking a sour off the coast of Okinawa. Feeling so high like I'm Ho-Oh in a tower. Take a flight on some shit. Got my dogs riding beside me, blazing hot. That's kamikaze, sacred fire. Don't be mad, I'm lit.
Maybe we'll call it an early night
Yeah, I am not going to be able to sleep, though.
because you're just so excited.
I'm so stoked,
So
dude.
excited. It's like girlfriend Christmas. You wake up in the morning and you have a girlfriend.